Hello and welcome to Tabletop Oddity. My name is Jay and today I'm going to be showing you how to magnetize the AT-ST for Star Wars Legion. Now I have already done the AT-RT. If you want to check out how to magnetize that, that'll be up in the corner there. And yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically on the AT-ST I've not fully assembled it, I've only part assembled it kind of thing. This actually comes like this. You can put in the weapons. You can put in two of the weapons like this. Well, three. It comes with an inbuilt weapon. And it's got this little slot and you slot them in like so. But the problem is the, I think it's the mortar cannon. Not 100% sure. It looks like this. And basically it just goes on the side. So it goes on the side like so. But there's no slot for it. You have to literally glue it to it. Now, but if you don't want that weapon to always be on the model, you only want it sometimes when you're going to run it. Well, the solution here is magnets. So I'll put a magnet on the actual weapon, and there's a magnet inside this, and I'll get onto that in a moment, but it'll just simply clip on like that, and there you have it. You have all weapons that you're going to want to be able to take off to be take-offable. So let's get on to how I actually did that, and we'll do it right now. The only thing I want to say is that basically this comes like this without this weapon here, and what we're going to have to do is take off the back part. If you're not comfortable doing that, then you know you might not want to try this. And the magnet sizes I'll put in the description below, but you sort of want the biggest one you can get inside. And for the ones that are going on the weapon, I think I'm going to have to recommend 3mm, but we'll talk more about that at the end. So yeah, let's get on to how I actually did it. Before we carry on, do consider subscribing, as that really does help. So the first thing we're going to want to do is open up the back part of it. So it comes as this like head, and we're gonna want to take off this back panel. Now I used my knife, but I actually ended up breaking my knife doing this. So try and get something thin and very hard. If you do use your knife, then don't try and like wedge it out with just the end, because that'll break. I found the best way to do it is to get in at the top, right where that little like where it goes up. You can sort of just wedge it underneath that, and that will really allow you to crack open the whole thing. You can try and like run your knife down the sides or even underneath, but really I had the most success wedging it open from the top. And of course you want to be careful, because some of the other parts are glued together and this could sort of disintegrate the whole thing. As I said, this is a fairly expensive model, so if you aren't comfortable, then maybe pass on doing this, but it's actually fairly easy to crack open the back. Just sort of keep wedging it open. You'll hear like some cracks as the glue like cracks off like that, but that's just part and parcel if you're going to do this. Now you could try and drill it into the side. The problem with that is you'd then have a weird hole, because it's not thick plastic. You would end up like it would have nothing to glue onto. So I recommend taking off the back. I think it's fairly easy to do, but the risk is on you. Don't blame me if it all goes Pete Tonk, as they say. And then what we're going to do is we want to find out, we're going to want to put a magnet on the actual weapon. Now the weapon has this little nub, which is like the place where you're supposed to glue it. What we're going to do is simply just drill a hole into it. Now I used 3mm for the purpose of this video. I then changed my mind and tried to add a 4mm magnet. Now the 3mm magnet isn't it's not a very strong bond. If you shook it very hard, it would fall off. The 4mm is a much stronger bond, but it's a lot more difficult to do because you end up drilling a hole into it. But we'll get onto that in a second. But yeah, you just drill your hole into the little nib where it would normally glue together. You want to keep drilling until you can get your magnet pretty flush. Now I had to like file it off so it was straight, but you just want it to be perfectly flush so that the magnet doesn't show. Then I glue the magnet into this weapon. The polarization at this point doesn't matter because we've not yet glued the magnet inside. Just a little bit of dab of super glue and you're done. To glue the magnet inside the AT-ST, just make sure you get it in the right place and the right polarization. Put a bit of dab of super glue on the end that is going to be connected to the wall. That should attract the one that's on your weapon. Just stick it in with your finger, wait till it's like glued, test it with your weapon so you're 100% correct, and Bob's your uncle. Basically you can just sort of let that dry Once you're all happy with that, just put the back on with a bit of super glue. I've not used a shed ton of super glue, just in case I ever need to come back and redo this. But you know, there's no reason why anything should fall apart or disintegrate or whatever you. And then yep, you're pretty much done. That's it really. It's actually a fairly simple process. The fact that you can just take off the back and put the magnet in like that. The only complicated is drilling into your weapon. Now I personally think it's better to drill into it and have it flush rather than to add it extra like meat to the weapon basically. I mean, so that's it really. Like, I don't think I did a particularly great job of explaining that, but so we'll recap here. All you really do, you take off the back. As I said, just try and wedge it in at the top. That seems to be the best place where you'll get the most purchase. You'll hear some creaks and cracking as you're snapping off the super glue. Once that's open, you know, you can put your magnet inside, but you're also going to need to drill into the weapon itself. Now, as I said, I put in a 3mm magnet and then I was like, not happy with the strength of it, so I took out the magnet with great difficulty, and then I've put in a 4mm one. You could probably drill a 4 meter hole if you would right in the center and get it nice and flush, but mine at the minute isn't nice and flush. And if you drill too far into the weapon, the actual weapon is hollow, so you run the risk of being able to push your magnet all the way into that. 3mm is the safest one for the weapon. Inside, it doesn't really matter, just like the strongest, biggest magnet you've got. I think I'm using 6mm magnets inside. That's just the biggest I have. Doesn't really matter apart from the strength of it, because you're never going to see it. It doesn't shake or anything. And the obvious advantage of doing it like this instead of drilling into it, for example, is the fact that you can there's no visible trace on the weapon itself. It's very hard to do this from this angle. I've done it upside down, but there we go. Now it isn't going to move very easily. It'll move up and down a little bit. If you want, there's not really a way of putting a second magnet in that, so you've only got the one pivot point. But I think on the game table that'll stay, but if you shake it, it won't. But it won't come off. Like it's not coming off. It's just not orientated the correct way. But I'm pretty happy with that. That's a 4mm magnet though. The 3mm magnet, not quite as strong, but the 4mm one not quite as practical either. So you've got to pick and choose what you want basically. Hopefully that made sense. As I said, do this at your own risk. I'm not responsible if you damage your precious ATST. I personally found taking the back off to be quite easy, apart from breaking my knife because I was trying to wedge it open with just the edge. Don't do that. You can pretty much do it mostly from the top as long as you're careful. Just pry it open and just sort of like eke down the sides and it'll pop right off basically. Hopefully that was simple enough. Do like, subscribe. I think we're okay for magnetizing right now. I don't think any of the other weapons or units really need it, but so I won't probably be doing any of these, but you know, there'll plenty more Legion content on the way as always, as you know. So do like, subscribe, and as ever, have a most beautiful day.